There is a specific kind of player in Dota 2 that the community rarely understands. Not the loud one, not the guy who screams into his microphone or types trash talk in all chat to get the crowd roaring. The other kind. The one who farms in the dark while his base is crumbling, perfectly calculating the exact second he will emerge to save the game. The one who, when the chaotic teamfight ends, is the last man standing, striking down ancient structures with cold, mathematical precision. Wang Chunyu is that player. From a scene defined by massive personalities and chaotic geniuses, he became the ultimate standard of carry play in the history of Dota 2. And his journey was a beautiful, agonizing heartbreak. Because for the longest time, the world called him the genius who couldn't win the one trophy that mattered.
Wuhan, China, a massive metropolis, but in the mid-2010s, a battleground for the fierce, unforgiving Chinese Dota 2 pub scene. This wasn't a place that coddled talent. It was an absolute meat grinder of high MMR lobbies, where veterans ruthlessly gatekept newcomers. Just a place where a quiet teenager operating under the simple alias Ame started climbing the leaderboards with an efficiency that felt almost robotic. He didn't rely on gimmicks. He relied on flawless mechanics, perfect creep manipulation, immaculate map awareness, and an uncanny ability to find gold where none existed. Hours and hours in those brutal lobbies before anyone even knew his real name. Without knowing it, he was building the foundation of a playstyle that would define an entire generation of professional carries.
By the time the competitive ecosystem started fully professionalizing, Ame was grinding through the Chinese semi-pro scene with youth squads and Tier 2 stacks. He wasn't a massive public figure. He was just a teenager in Wuhan, putting in work that nobody outside the high MMR leaderboards could see. And then he got noticed by LGD Gaming, the legendary powerhouse of Chinese Dota. And something happened that changed his trajectory in a way he did not expect at all.
He was too good. Not slightly better than other carries. Embarrassingly, visibly, inexplicably efficient. His stats didn't make sense for a player stepping into the Tier 1 scene. His farming routes were too clean. His positioning in chaotic teamfights was too precise. His gold per minute was at a level that established veterans hadn't reached. And the Dota 2 community, which has a long and slightly shameful history of placing immense, crushing expectations on young talent, reached its predictable conclusion. The forums filled up with toxic vitriol the moment he made a single mistake. Pro players and analysts scrutinized every item choice. The pressure spread fast. Every death on the map was clipped, dissected, and mocked by thousands of fans. His social media profiles were a wall of the same harsh criticisms, repeated over and over again.
The breaking point came at the International 2018 in Vancouver. The grandest stage, a controlled, high-pressure environment. 5 brutal games against OG, the absolute pinnacle of psychological stress. And Ame played the only way he knew how. Aggressive, fast, impossibly high risk. But a split-second decision in the final games backfired, and the Aegis slipped away. The community blamed him entirely, and what followed stayed with him. The realization that in China, finishing second means you are the first of the losers. He wasn't angry, just honest. He knew what he was. The losses only confirmed how small the margin for error truly was. And when he got up from that booth in Vancouver and walked back out into the world, he didn't quit. he went right back to the server, because LGD was already rebuilding the system entirely around him.
September 2020. PSG.LGD, his definitive championship-era roster. Ame remained with the organization because they understood how to build a disciplined system around his unparalleled carry play. PSG.LGD was a terrifyingly structured team, one of the oldest organizations in esports, pairing Ame with the legendary mastermind coach TI8 to create a juggernaut. With Ame at the absolute peak of his mechanical powers, they didn't just win games, they dominated the globe. He became, year by year, the most respected and feared carry player in the entire world. The ultimate prize, the Aegis of Champions, still stayed just out of reach at TI10 in another devastating 5-game final. But his trajectory was unmistakable. Every Tier 1 tournament since 2018 had his name feared at the top of the draft. Every year, without exception.
6 years of intense pressure, dozens of international trophies, a multi-time TI finalist before his career took a dramatic turn. And then, after taking a much-needed hiatus to escape the exhausting grind, he made the move in January 2024 that finally unlocked his definitive redemption. Xtreme Gaming, a team that brought him back into the competitive fire alongside legendary veterans like Chunyu and Dai. The community had spent a year dreaming of his return, wondering if the uncrowned king still had the hunger to compete at the absolute top. But Ame hadn't lost a step. He was playing with a newfound sense of freedom, no longer carrying the crushing weight of the world on his shoulders alone.
2024 was not just a successful comeback year for Ame. It was a masterpiece. Games of the Future 2024, first place. Elite League Season 1, against the best teams in the world, first place. And then, PGL Wallachia, the tournament where he faced Team Spirit, the exact organization that had broken his heart years prior. The event where every analyst wondered if the old ghosts would return. Xtreme Gaming swept through them. Ame had his ultimate revenge. The kid from Wuhan, who had been blamed for China's competitive heartbreaks, stood on the international stage as an undisputed champion. The scene that had heavily doubted his mental fortitude had spent years watching him prove them wrong. And this was the final proof.
But here is the thing about Ame that separates him from most players at his level. The efficiency never dipped. In an era where carry players spike and fade, where the gap between peak performance and complete irrelevance is often just one patch, Ame kept farming. He won an Asian Games gold medal for his country. He collected championships across different rosters and eras. The word robotic gets used about his farming patterns constantly, and it sounds like faint praise until you realize how rare, genuine, flawless consistency actually is at the top of Dota 2. Even during his brief retirement, his myth grew. Whenever a professional carry died out of position, the entire global community would chant the same phrase. Ame wouldn't have died there. He became the literal golden standard against which every single Position 1 player in the world was measured. And when he returned, he proved that the myth was completely real. Xtreme Gaming became a global titan overnight because his presence alone fundamentally changed how opponents had to play the map. The competitive journey was a deeply emotional experience for Ame. Years of being called the ultimate loser of grand finals. Years of carrying the pride of Chinese Dota on his back, while facing a community that criticized his every breath. He rarely smiled in front of the cameras.
He rarely gave long, emotional interviews. "I just want to play good Dota." He let his hero do the talking. His Spectre, his Morphling, his Anti-Mage. And he picked up trophy after trophy in a career that started in an internet cafe in Wuhan with a kid who just wanted to maximize his creep score. Dozens of Tier 1 trophies. An Asian Games gold medal. The highest-earning Chinese Dota 2 player in the modern era. The ultimate farming efficiency record that analysts still use as a textbook example for new players. And all of it built on the same foundation. Positioning, map control, iron discipline, and a net worth graph that simply never stops climbing. He is not the loudest voice in esports. He was never the player who chased traditional fame or internet mythology. But if you ask the professionals, the offlaners who dread entering his lane, the captains who try to block his jungle camps, the teammates who feel entirely safe the moment he gets his items, the answer tends to be the same. Wang Chunyu is one of the greatest carries the game of Dota has ever produced. The leaderboards in China proved it first. Everything since has just been adding evidence.
Wang Chunyu, born April 7th, 1997, in Wuhan, China. 29 years old. Still playing. Still farming. Still the player nobody fully game planned for correctly. Because by the time you think you've cornered his team, he emerges from the fog of war, completely unstoppable.